So I've recently started releasing a bunch of videos around how to best prepare your resumes. And that's because over the last 15 years, I've probably reviewed several thousand resumes at this point. And through that experience, I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly when it comes to resumes. And so my thought was maybe I can take some of that knowledge and experience and share the things that I have found to be the most impactful when it comes to what makes for a great resume. Today, I want to talk about resumes for people that want to work in real estate private equity. What I mean by that is investment firms that focus on real estate. So there are funds out there where they raise large funds and they go out and they buy like commercial buildings and then they rent them out and they generate profits off the rent. And then like over time, they'll sell the building, hopefully at a profit. And that's like their fund, very similar to like a REIT, for example. So if you want to apply to one of those, here are some of my best ideas around the things that you need to highlight on your resume. So the first thing is you got to think about like, what do these real estate private equity firms want? What are they looking for? Well, they're looking for somebody that can kind of be like the grunt, the analyst on the team that's going to like crank through the stuff that's maybe a little more tedious than what they want to do. Because the more senior people, like their job is to like close deals, hunt for properties, evaluate properties, take in all like the contextual stuff. But then what they're going to do is they're going to take all of that data for the most part and they're going to hand it off to you. And then what they want you to do is also to pull in other research and then help them build out the presentations and the financial models and help them get to a good decision by doing a lot of the low-level grunt work to get it done. So what does that mean? That means that they're looking for people that are smart, people that have strong financial acumen when it comes to real estate, and people that are really passionate about real estate. Because honestly, like sometimes this job kind of drags and they want people that get excited to come to work every day. I mean, it's just more fun to work with somebody that's excited about what you do like you are. So the first one is they're looking for smart people. So how do you accentuate that on your resume? Well, probably the easiest, most obvious thing is like your grades. So put your grades on there. If you scored really highly on standardized tests like SAT, ACT, maybe you took like the GMAT or LSAT or GRE or like whatever, put those things on your resume. Generally, I would say if you scored in the top 10% or higher on any of those standardized tests, it's worth putting on your resume. And then really you want to be at least a 3.5 or above on your GPA. Ideally, for some of these more competitive jobs, probably closer to 3.75 or 3.8 and higher. And so if you're not there yet and you're still in college and you've got some time, figure out how to fix your grades so you can get there, because those are the types of grades that you're competing against. And then look, there are a lot of other ways to like indicate that you're smart. So maybe you highlight the fact that you were selected by your teacher to be a teaching assistant or research assistant. Maybe you highlight that you were on the dean's list for so many consecutive quarters, or you talk about specific academic scholarships that you were awarded or case competitions that you won. Now, ideally, case competitions that were related to real estate, right, would be really strong. Do whatever you can to like highlight, hey, I am a smart individual that works hard. The next one is they're looking for people that have strong financial acumen, because you're going to be building a lot of these models. And these models can be relatively complex. I mean, you got to, account for the debt, the equity that's going in. You got to account for fluctuations in rent and utilities and all these various expenses, management, repairs, et cetera, in order to build like a very good model that can give you good insight into how well that investment's going to do. So the way to do that is talk about the courses you've been in, especially if you can highlight specific projects that you worked on. So maybe you took a real estate finance capstone course, and then tell us about, like, in your resume, the thing that you accomplished, like the capstone project and what it was and how you built a model to analyze, a 300 unit apartment complex or whatever. That sort of thing can be really impactful. Ideally, you've had experiences working in real estate in one shape or another. Now, one of the advantages with real estate is that unlike investment banking, unlike venture capital, it's really easy for pretty much anybody to get a taste of real estate investing. You can invest with your family. You can invest yourself personally. I mean, heck, you can even go on to these platforms like here, .co or Arrive, where you can invest in short-term rental properties for as little as $250, right? What would be cool, right, is you could say, hey, I'm an investor in short-term properties, right? And you could say, hey, look, I put, maybe $1,000 into properties on Arrive and here, and I built out my own financial models of how well I would perform, and I could walk you through those, right? That sort of thing is going to do a lot for you. It's going to show that, like, hey, you're a self-starter, you're ambitious, you understand real estate, you're passionate about real estate, and you can build financial models that helped you make a true investment decision. And even though it may not be directly applicable to the type of real estate investing that they do, I guarantee you, like, most of the people you're competing against won't have done that sort of thing. And so it will allow you to stand out. Whatever you do, though, you want to try and get as many experiences related to real estate as possible. Like maybe work for a management company that manages rental properties. Or, maybe you worked at a bank and you were a mortgage underwriter, or you interned for a mortgage underwriter. And so you understand kind of the mortgage and the loan environment for real estate. Whatever it is, be able to demonstrate that you've had experiences in the space that also allowed you to roll up your sleeves and get your hands dirty on real estate. The other thing is be able to demonstrate that, like, you can speak the lingo, that you know what the terminology is. So things like development costs and ROIs and IRRs and net IRRs versus gross IRRs and cap rates, or things like, bank owned or owner financing or ARV, or understanding what closing costs are, title and title insurance, and all of those different aspects, right? Like, if you can weave kind of those buzzwords and keywords into your resume, will really help you stand out as somebody that kind of knows what they're doing, even if you don't 100% know what you're doing. Although, one caveat with that, never put a term on your resume or in anything that you put in front of an interviewer that you don't know well enough to explain to them. That can cause you some major problems. But if you can include a bunch of this stuff because you're familiar with it, then it will help also differentiate you from those that are just throwing out like a blanket vanilla resume that doesn't really highlight their knowledge in the space. And the last one is, and I've been hinting at this the whole time, is demonstrate passion. So how do you demonstrate passion? Well, ideally, it's through a lot of the experiences that you've already had. It might also be like, hey, in my other interests, like my favorite books, you're highlighting in real estate investing books that have really had an impact on your life. And maybe so you talk about those down there. Maybe you talk about how, you spent summers remodeling houses with your family and getting into real estate that way. Or maybe you talk about how you're trying or in the process, or maybe you've already done like an Airbnb arbitrage strategy where instead of buying a piece of property, you just go to somebody that has a piece of property and you convince them to rent it to you, and then you go and rent it on Airbnb and make money off the difference, because that doesn't require a ton of cash up front to get going. Whatever it is, be able to demonstrate that like you are really passionate about the space, and because you are passionate, you have proactively sought out as many opportunities to learn and connect and grow within that space as possible. And that will be also a key thing that will help set you apart. As someone who loves investing in real estate, I think there are a ton of really cool opportunities out there. You don't even really need a resume to do real estate, as evidenced by the plethora of TikTok channels, YouTube channels, and so forth that talk about how to do it. But there is some real value in working with a larger fund where you can do much, much bigger transactions, where you're talking about buildings that are worth hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. And that can be fun and super lucrative in its own right. And so getting experiences and pursuing those opportunities can be, a very worthwhile career. Hopefully this was helpful as you prepare and think about how to make your resume shine as you apply for those types of jobs. If so, be sure to check out my other video where I do a review on somebody's resume that's applying for venture capital. And even though it's VC and not real estate, I think you'll find that there's some real gems in there that are applicable regardless of the industry or the career field that you're applying for. Thanks for joining.